Okay, so good afternoon, good morning, good day, everyone, to wherever you are. My name is John Frost. I am a senior economist in the Innovation and the Digital Economy Unit at the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. And I'm here today with Siri Borsum, the VP of Financial Vertical and Global Partnership and Eco-Development at Huawei, and Sheila Kagan, the CEO at Fique. So, hello, Siri and Sheila.
Hi. Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
John.
Hi, John.
Thanks a lot for joining today. So we wanted to have a discussion here about big tech in finance, understanding the impact and the opportunities for fintech firms and companies like your own. Before we start, do you want to just give us a one sentence about Fique and about Huawei? Sheila, can we start with you?
Sure. So, hi, everyone. Fique is just a very quick introduction. A startup that was established close to 5 years ago. We specialize in the fintech area. What we have is a unique solution that helps banks deliver all the financial products within part of the keyboard that the user is using. We have a patent solution, worldwide clients, very successful for the past 5 years.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sheila. And Siri, can you briefly introduce your work at Huawei?
Yes, so I think my main focus these days, and has been for the last 6 months since I joined Huawei, is actually to support the finance industry in providing the users with even a better solutions and more products that are actually for us, that helps us and supports us in every daily lives. And obviously, as a part of that, we want them to take their features and their products and join the third global ecosystem that we're building up, that we call the App Gallery. So that's my focus now.
Wonderful. Thanks, Siri. So let's launch right in. We wanted to start with a question about the impact of big technology companies, or big techs. And of course, big techs are expanding their footprint in the financial system in various ways. One strategy that many are using is to compete directly with financial institutions. And another is to partner with financial institutions and to provide financial services jointly. So Siri, if we can start with you, of course, mechanically, this entry increases competition in the short term, but what do you think are going to be the longer term effects of this on competition in the financial sector?
Well, I think that it's a very good question, and if I knew the answer, I wouldn't tell you. But I think that it's a very important question. So personally, I think we will always have competition in this industry for many reasons, but I think mainly because there's a lot of money involved here, and that attracts innovation, obviously. And then we also have all the demanding customers that you and I and every listener are, as we demand things to work more effortlessly now than before. And then I think also you have the fact that this market is dominated by so many different players. So you have all the fintechs, obviously, that come from technology, and that is obviously trying to stay away from all the laws and the regulations that are that the industry has upon it, and therefore don't want to be a bank. So that's one part of it. And then you have the big tech players, where they come to this industry from a lot of different angles. So I think they have all these, they bring the sort of the applications and the data centricity, and they bring the cloud computing into the game. They bring data management perspective as well. So that's the one side of it. And then you have the other side, which is more the e-commerce big tech players, like you would have Amazon and Alipay, for example. And they focus on us as customers and making everything frictionless and making it sort of easier for us to be consumers. And they also want to sort of help us be with the use of data to sort of better things like risk and the working capital. And then you have the third party, like the traditional banks, and they have this disadvantage with sort of the legacy. They have to invest in new technology. They have to invest in more people, new talent into the organization. And they need to understand sort of how to use that data so that can deliver commercial outcomes for their customers. On the second hand, they have the, I think they don't have any plan to get beaten in this game. So they are focusing on the right things. And they have this very strong existing customer base, right? And we as consumer, we trust them because they've always looked after our money in a very secure and safely manner. So I think that they have accepted that technology will be here, and how do we do that? So back to your question, a long answer in there, but I think that we will see competition in this game around new routes of profitability. We will see it in terms of approaches that are new approaches to customer engagement. And I think we will see that there will be huge competition in attracting the best and the right talent. And then, as you said, the strong relationships and the partnerships that everyone now needs to take seriously, because no one will manage to do this on their own.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Siri. So I'd like to turn to Sheila now, and I'd like to ask a question about a scenario in which big technology companies establish financial arms that compete directly with incumbents. So we heard just now of the fintechs, the big techs, and the incumbents, and now we're thinking of a scenario where big techs compete more directly. What do you think are going to be opportunities for the fintechs, for the startups, Sheila? Could you talk a little bit about that from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I fully agree that the evolution is already started and the competition would be tough. And the fact that actually the big four can actually play along in a very different way than the bank creates a huge opportunity for startups like ourselves to be part of this evolution and really help bank actually make the transformation they are eager to do. Because if you look at the current situation, on one hand, the big four and the fintech, the big tech company, they have a big advantage in understanding the user natural environment, all the non-financial behavior of the user. They have a very big advantage in that field. And on the other side, if you take the bank, you see that the banks, they have a lot of information and understanding, a deep understanding, and also relationship with their end user when it comes to financial services. But they only be able to conduct that within a financial environment. And they all understand that based on the evolution that's currently happening, and it's something that it's only the tech companies, the big tech companies are also expedited together with the COVID-19 situation. This situation is expedited deeply, which is the embedded banking, where the banks really understand that in order to survive and to lead this change and be a valuable player as a B2C and not just a B2B that support the big tech, they need to make a huge change. And this change relates to the fact that the bank need fintech companies to help them overcome this gap and bridge, understanding the user behavior in a non-financial environment, to understand the user ecosystem and create a prediction where the user needs a financial answer, financial services, and be the one that provide this answer. And all the tech, the fintech companies that will be able to answer those those type of needs of the banks will be a great success, because in this new ecosystem, the bank would need a huge support in that sense. Because if you speak to banks, you really understand that they see that even though they have a lot of data over the years, understanding the financial behavior of the users, they're still missing a lot of segmentation, personalization layers of understanding predicting the user behavior in a non-financial environment. So they have a huge gap they need to overcome in order to be able to conduct a productive, in a productive way in terms of the future of the finance. So in that sense, any financial fintech company that will be able to support the bank in that area will be a success.
Thanks so much, Sheila. So, Siri, let's stay on the same topic here. You and Sheila were both discussing how incumbents can adapt and using big data as big techs do to make financial services more personalized, more precise, more relevant, better targeted, more convenient. Can you talk to us a little bit about how incumbents can make use of some of these tools?
Well, I think that the biggest headache in this game is all the legacy systems. Like, how do you actually plug in the gaps in the system so that you can actually utilize the data? And I think that looking at how they are challenged in sort of bringing in all these new sources of data, that be social media or biometrics, for example, it is very challenging. And I think that we now see that for Huawei's sake, like what we're doing now with the 5G and bringing in a new operating system based on 5G, where you sort of remove a lot of that legacy that actually is in the old systems, you can start all over, and you can actually bring the best solutions to your users when you start all over, like from the beginning. And I think that is where it's those incumbents that actually manage that transition to move from the old to the new in a smooth way will be the ones that actually will succeed here.
So Sheila, I wanted to go back to you with perhaps a provocative question. So, of course, big tech firms and card networks recently have been on a buying spree. We've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the past few years. And economists Kamepalli, Rajan, and Zingalis, for instance, refer to the kill zone around digital platforms. They talk about the threat of acquisition and that this can actually make venture capital investment in startups less likely because they may be acquired before they can build up a large user base. So Sheila, do you agree with this? Is this something that you actually see in practice?
Yeah, I actually see the opposite trend, especially because of the trend that I just explained, the fact that embedded banking created huge opportunities for the fintech companies to actually work alongside the banks as a B2B partner as opposed to the B2C. Your actually argument relates more to the B2C companies, where they're in terms of creating a huge database and everything relates to that. But what happened in terms of the current situation with embedded banking is that the bank are seeking for all the fintech companies that can conduct as a B2B solution that help them support all this the transition that they are facing at the moment, and building layers of data, segmentation, personalization. All this is actually a huge step for all fintech in that sense. And I'm sure the VC, based on what I see and personally experience over the last few years, and especially I would say even after the corona started, because if you look at the current situation, it just expedites the need in this new ecosystem that created for the banks. So it's actually created a lot of opportunities. So a lot of new money is actually driven towards this direction, because we can all understand and analyze, and after speaking to the banks, they are facing a huge problem in terms of data segmentation and understanding all the user behavior. If one of the statistics says that the banks have less than 5% of their data actually utilized back to understand and segment the user behavior. So they have so much lack of understanding the user need, and they actually seeking deeply for the solution from technology, from the fintech companies. So in that sense, it's actually creating so many opportunities for a huge business impact that actually goes along with a lot of VCs actually investment. So I see the opposite, positive that's what we're going to see in the next few years for sure. So it's actually working in our favor.
A live zone rather than a kill zone, perhaps.
Exactly.
So Siri, it'd be great to get your perspective on this. What do you see regarding the competitive position of startups, and how can startups remain competitive against big diversified digital platforms?
Well, I think it like a lot of Sheila, what she's already said, that how do you leverage the data, obviously, but I also think that it has so much to do with actually that element of trust, and actually being there to be a partner, there to go in and actually do business together. And that is not, the industry is not known to be a partner industry, but I do think that what we've seen for the last sort of couple of years is that they are getting more comfortable with it, and we also see improvements in the products. What I think though is that we actually, as an industry, need to get the consumers to change behavior. And that doesn't happen very easily, because you can kind of see that we still sit and have our loans in the banks, and we kind of, how often do we change banks as consumers? So we need to actually use the situation we're in right now with the epidemic, that we can actually improve and bring those new features or products to the consumer, and focus on that right now, rather than maybe developing new features. Because we see that consumers are changing behavior. They have picked up the mobile phone, they're using it a lot more, and especially in the older generation, which is kind of interesting. So I think that this is a really good time for us to do that behavioral change that we need to see in consumers for this to actually take off, and the way that everyone that works in this industry would like to see, and everyone that loves great digital experiences.
Thanks, Siri. So we're coming up at the end of our time, but I'd like to turn to Sheila. If you could just talk us through, what do you think are the top 3 opportunities for fintech startups, given these changes that we've been discussing?
Mm-hmm. So for sure, the B2B2C section, that will be the winning, especially because what I've said before, the banks that actually need partners like ourselves to help them overcome the gap that they see based on the new environment that is being conducted. So the B2B2C would be the winners. And everything around personalization, segmentation, data analysis, everything that helps the bank take all the financial services and user financial behavior and translate it into a non-financial environment, building prediction based on that, building the bridge to help the bank understand the user behavior, and based on that create a financial tailor-made offer would be the winners for sure. If you take what we do, for example, that's exactly what we do. We place all the financial services in a non-financial environment through the keyboard to all users. That's exactly it. So any company that will do something similar to that, and by that helping the bank actually create an environment where they can understand the user natural behavior in a non-financial environment, and really get to a point where they can get an answer, a direct answer to the need of the user when the user needed, on the spot, understanding the user as a person and tailor-made the financial solution. They would be the winners for sure.
Thanks so much, Sheila. So I know that we're coming up at the end of the time, so let me just quickly conclude. I'd like to say thank you to both Siri and Sheila for sharing your view from the trenches. This is extremely valuable, getting the practitioners' insight, so thanks so much for that. I'd also like to just put in a brief plug at the BIS. We have a lot of research on fintech and big tech from a public policy perspective, looking at some of the trends, some of the data, how large are some of these markets around the world. So for anyone who's interested, please do check out the research on bis.org. And very much looking forward to continuing the dialogue. Thank you again to Siri and Sheila for sharing your time.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.